Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you're just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and welcome back again to another episode of our Disasters of War series. These are collaborative episodes in which you, the viewer, write in, you send in your save game, you send in your difficult situation, and I do my very best to solve it, whether it's a battle, whether it's a campaign that we take over for a little bit. Now this is episode 2. In this particular little mini campaign, we are helping a fellow named Wolfen. We're going to do like a 30-second recap here. We'll put his email up on the screen, but basically this guy wanted a little bit of a boost in his campaign. So less of a disaster and more of a difficult situation he was asking for help with. Particularly, he was looking for help with the Aserai Kingdom. So he also wanted to focus a little bit of a cavalry army. He was having some difficulty pushing the Aserai tide back, and so we have jumped in here to help. Now in the first episode, we were able to help him take the city of Husson Folk. Even though he did give up one of his other castles to the north, we were able to hold on to both of his other castles, and now we're looking to punch the bully Aserai in the nose. He is part of the Northern Empire, and the Northern Empire he is hoping will be led by Penton to the uniting essentially of all of Calradia here. And it's odd because they're at war with the Aserai, which makes sense, right? The Aserai is right here. The Britannians and the Valandians, which are a long ways away, until you notice that the Valandians have started taking castles in the middle of the map, and to the north, the Valandians are also taking castles to the north. So the Britannians, if I said Valandians, the Britannians and the Valandians are at war with Northern Empire forces. I'm actually hoping in this episode to make our way north so that we can make an impact in that side of the war. But before we do that, we must have success here in the south and get a favorable peace treaty with the Aserai. This gentleman here did not give me his name. In his email, he also did not specify, look, I want you to try to destroy half the Aserai and take all their cities. So we're going to basically try to push them back, get a very favorable peace, leave a solid defense force here in the south, and then make our way north for some action up there. Now, there's a few things that I was just sort of looking at his character before I started recording and made our intro. A few things that I want to adjust. A few things I did behind the scene without showing you that we're just not going to bother. Little adjustments to characters and their equipment. But this is something I want to point out right away. We're going to add javelins to his arsenal of weapons here, even though he doesn't have throwing skill, right? Very pitiful. It's going to be kind of sad to throw these Jurids, but we're still going to do it anyways because it's at least something that he can throw at a distance that'll do some damage. More importantly though, this sword here, brother, Mr. Wolfen, is not very useful on a horse because of that length. A lot of times you're going to be right next to like a Consguard or something like that, and you're going to swing and miss because you're not quite close enough. In fact, I would still prefer you had an axe in the 130 range, like an executioner axe or something like that. But this axe is still pretty fast, does good damage, and is long enough to hit people even on horse, right? So we're going to get rid of your sword more accurately before you get all fired up here. We're just going to put it on the bench. In fact, we'll hit that little button here, and we will use this other axe. Now, we're going to add these Jurids. So now this guy has a sword, shield, and let's take a look at that sword, see if there's a better alternative. Sword, shield, javelin, and a long axe. And this is a pretty good sword. It's got a good amount of length, the sword that he has right here. As far as one-handed swords go, that's just fine. Now we're not going to spend a huge amount of time with all this, but I did go through to some of his companions and upgrade their gear slightly. We've been given more and more of them a few javelins, because even if you have a cavalry army, you might as well have these guys throw those javelins. All right, now there's a few other things that I saw that I wanted to adjust. First, he's got his two brothers up here, right? These are brothers, I think, that come with the sandbox, or rather the campaign mode, the non-sandbox. Fodor reminds me of the Realm of Thrones, right? Hodor, hold the door. So he's got these two brothers here. We're going to call them into service, right? Come with us, join our company here, and we're going to try to put them to some use. Now, I was looking very briefly at their character specs, and it's going to be a little challenging to put them to use, right? At least in a traditional way. I would like brothers to be in combat, but Mr. Wolfen here has really spared their combat skills, right? He has, in fact, this is really unusual, 11 attribute points that are unspent, and yet all these focus points spent in these categories. So a few things I'm going to do right away. We're going to add a bunch of points here to his scouting, right? That way his scouting skill goes through the roof, and we're also going to add a few points down here and to his intelligence. That way this guy can make an army, he could be a good scout, and conceivably he would be a good governor, because we're going to be able to work up his trade skills, his leadership skills. This will make this character a lot more useful than just sitting in a garrison sipping wine and going after the mistress. The other thing I'm going to do is we're actually going to change him out into a party leader with this gal here. It's been bugging me that this gal clearly has a wooden shield and some rags over her head, so we're going to get her some proper equipment. And I just noticed this. This is something that new players need to be aware of. You rarely see this clicked. Notice this character, unlimited wage. That means that she's not going to lose any of her troops. Part of the reason that this character is at 9 out of 113 is because this button is not clicked. There's a bunch of stuff you can do in here, and I'll explain the priority in a second, but this button needs to be clicked. That way, she's not limited to 100 wage. What's happening basically is she's not able to recruit troops. She's stuck at 9 out of 113. Worse than that, if we are to give her troops, and this has probably already happened, I didn't notice exactly why this was happening. That is why, right? We need to tell her unlimited wage. Now, her wages come out of our wages. We pay for it. But we certainly don't want her disbanding troops because that button is not clicked. Now, this is the other thing we're going to do. We're going to change her party leader. You go in here, you go to the parties and say, I want to change their party leader. But you can't do it right now. Target party is currently in an army right now. So what you have to do is disband them. Once they're out of your army, then you can change the party leader. I did say I would explain this other part, so we'll talk about it very briefly. This is all the control you have over these little parties when they're out in the world. You can basically say, I want you to defend our areas, and you can't even point to a certain area. It's basically just play defensive, and so they will look for people attacking and try to attack them. You can tell them to be neutral, and then obviously you can tell them be aggressive. And if you select aggressive, they will go raid villages and shit like that. They will go try to capture enemy territory, or at least capture enemy lords, right? They're not going to be able to siege usually, but they might try to siege a small castle. So generally, I would advise defensive for your nobles. That said, they're in our party, so that shit doesn't matter. Right now, the other thing I want to do at the beginning of this episode is we're going to consolidate our troops here. Odrissa Castle is one of this guy's holdings to the north. There are 600 defenders here. That's way too much for a castle. You can see the prosperity. This place is not making us a lot of money. Furthermore, it's not really at risk. And what I mean by that is we're at war with the Aserai, the Valandians, and the Batanians. There's none of those units anywhere close to this castle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head north. We're going to try to hit villages along the way. That way we can pick up grain, pick up troops. That's an automatic as you do this. And we're going to take some of those troops. There's 578 there. We'll probably pick up 150 troops from there. The next thing we're going to do, and we can do it right now since there's a natural resting spot here, is we are going to trade party leaders. I'm doing this for two main reasons. The first reason I'm doing this is that he's got this gal with no equipment. I imagine she has the equipment she got out of the tavern, right? So we want to fix that. The second reason is I think this Fodor guy with his unusual skill skill tree spec, whatever you want to call it, his unusual skill set is going to be better used as a party leader. So now we can go in here, we disband this gal, although this is another critical step you have to do. You're going to disband her, but if you have that few troops, right, you've got to basically, how come I can't, what's going on here? We should be able to, let me inspect your troops. Okay, now we can look at her troops. What we're going to do here is we're going to give her basically our lowest scuzzy troops. In fact, let's go ahead and wait. I was going to do it right here. Let's go to Odrissa Castle. That way we have a bunch of scuzzy troops to give her, and I'll explain that part in a minute as well. The purpose of all this, though, is we're going to put our brother, who's probably a little bit better suited to be a party leader, in charge of one of these parties. Once we hit this castle here, we'll have a bunch of troops to make this much easier. Now, we still got a gal being governor here, and we have a huge militia here, right? So this militia force, we could leave a garrison, I think, like 1 1/4 here, 125 troops, and that would be more than sufficient. Now, that other button was clicked. It makes me wonder about these other fiefs. When you go into your fiefs here, you have the ability basically to say, don't recruit extra troops, right? Actually, it's in the party screen. It's in kind of a strange location. See if I can remember this shit. Here it is right here. So your garrisons technically fall under parties, right? It's kind of an odd thing. They don't fall under fiefs, or at least this component of it. You want all of these at this stage of war unlimited, right? If you change that and you want this auto recruit thing clicked as well, there's these buttons that if you don't have them clicked, there's very negative outcomes. The castle just sits there, and all of a sudden you're like, how come there's no fucking troops here? Probably because these buttons are not clicked. We're not worried about money. Even though we're losing 1,000 a day, that's fine. We want troops, and we're not worried about auto recruitment. We want these castles racking up as much troops as possible. And even a cursory glance here, one of these is not like the others, right? This castle is way overstocked with troops. So in we go here. I'm going to sort it out by tier because I want mostly the very best troops in this castle. We're going to take the majority of this garrison. In fact, because this guy wants cavalry, we'll take these Vigla recruits that eventually turn into cavalry, and we'll just pull them straight out of the castle. Maybe we don't want quite that many. The odds of war with the Khazate is significant here, so maybe you don't want to pull all of these troops out of here, but we're going to pull a bunch. We'll leave 85 in there with the garrison, with the militia rather, 368 defenders, or 363. That's a lot more than even Hassan Folk has, and of course that's a much bigger priority for us to hold in this campaign. All right, I'm trying to see if there's a better, more efficient, not just efficient, but profitable route for us to take. We can do very minor things by hitting some of these cities and stuff like that, but before we do that, we need to give... it's going to be Fodor, but we're going to go ahead and give her a bunch of troops here. Now, I just decided this also. We're going to make Fodor an attack dog division. So we're going to give them a bunch of these Vigla recruits that will eventually turn into cavalry. Once they hit some combat, they turn into equitai, right? That's part of the troop upgrade tree. I will reiterate for anybody who's a fan of the channel, who comes by regularly, who's like, what the fuck? He's teaching very, very sort of basic stuff here. We're going to do this once in a while, right? Our channel is going to be on some level a one-stop shop for Bannerlord fans. And if they're not as advanced, perhaps, as you, and they need to learn some of this sort of intermediate stuff that comes with the campaign, we're going to put this in here because we're trying to make sure that we don't skip over steps that maybe overwhelms people a little bit. All right, now we can disband her. Now we can go in here to the party button. We can go to her army and say change party leader. We're not going to disband. We want to do right here. We're going to go to Fodor, right? He's got his steward and scouting and whatnot skills. Take him, turn him into the leader. Now, at first, nothing happens. It says, like, it's an odd name party. That's the clan name. But very quickly, it'll transform, and Echelaria, or whatever, the dispossessed, joins the army. Now, I'd recommend you immediately add him to your army. Otherwise, a Northern Empire force out there might make an army and be like, sweet, this guy's loaded. Let's add him to the army. And at that stage, you lose him, right? Unless you disband him, he runs off to that army. Just be aware of that little component there. All right, now let's throw some gear on this gal here real quick. Also, let's find out what kind of a gal she is, right? What kind of a warrior is this? We need more skirmishers. She's not a skirmisher. generally with your companions, what you should do is go with the flow. And what I mean by that statement is whatever they're already good at, you should keep doing that, right? It's so hard to get focus points and companion or attribute points for your companions. Just keep on pushing whatever it is they're doing, right? So we're going to give her a little bit of polearm skill, and we're going to spec her out to be a horse riding polearm warrior, right? When we go to this page here and alter her inventory, that's what we're seeking to do. We're seeking essentially to add her to the cavalry trampling brigade. Now, notice, right, she's got her original gear right out of the tavern. It's not a big deal, but if you lose a battle by 10 troops, it's your fault, right? And I don't mean that negatively, Mr. Wolfen. I mean, if you're not careful and intelligent and intentional with your companions, if you lose battles, you really have nobody to blame but yourself, right? Because these are the kind of things, you make these small adjustments to characters, and instead of killing one person before they get dropped, they kill 7 or 12. Not to mention, of course, they're gaining all sorts of skill points during this time. This is how you get the snowball effect to start in Bannerlord. Once you start winning battles, once your companions start to get more deadly, they kill more, they get more skill points, they get more deadly, they kill more. And I could just add, I could loop that with an AI for a long, long time, and it would still be very, very true. All right, so let's go ahead and give her, let's see, we need a spear, shield, and a sword. It's not vital that she has like the perfect spear and shield. I don't find a big difference between all the different spears. Of course, if you have like a nice legendary one, that's what you want to put on her. And for people who ride a horse, right, just like your main character, look for a long sword, 1/16 length. That's nice. She can hit people now while she's on horseback, just like our decision here with the axe, right? If you have a sword that's 86 and you're on horseback, it's swing and a miss, right? You look like Babe Ruth before he got good. You're swinging and missing and everything. All right, enough time spent there. All right, our board of war here, this is Khazate attacking that rebel town. I swear they've been doing that forever. Who's attacking here? This is, I think it's Khazate also attacking the Southern Empire here. It is, probably. It could be the Western Empire. So Khazate is eventually going to become a problem. If you look at our board of war here, it's amazing they're not at war with us already, right? We basically have the Khazate hemmed into the corner. It's almost a crescent shape there. We're going to have war with the Khazate. So it's a good thing to keep this garrison here, right? 363. That's nice, right? A lot of people might empty that garrison. I think that's appropriate to keep because that's essentially a border town, right? That's going to be attacked at some point or other in your campaign. Oh shit, I almost fucked up and got deserters. I forgot we need to restock some units here. The deserter check is usually once every 24 hours, and it can happen immediately, right at the worst time, and then of course you just lose. The whole purpose we came up north here is to get a bunch of troops, and you look real stupid if 20 of them desert right away. Now, I could make another party here, right? We've got enough party spots that I could make another party. And I think we will. We'll just go ahead and do this. Because I'm over troop stocked or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to take virtually all the lowest level troops though and put them here. That is because we're planning on sieging in this episode. I've had my eye on Razi. That's a really good castle or city to take rather, and I'll talk about that in a second. And what this does is this frees us up all the way down there to raid villages, add troops, and not worry about deserters, right? If you don't have room to carry the troops, then a little mission like this to gather more troops doesn't do you a lot of good. Now, this is really good, right, for Huss and Folk, because they just took that castle, which is going to be sort of a natural barrier to the Aserai to Huss and Folk. Whatever garrison they left at Shibboleth Zoomer, it's going to be small. And that's going to present basically bait that the enemy will attack before Shibboleth Zoomer, right? They're going to likely attack this little castle. In fact, let's look. 97 troops, right? So that's a very tempting morsel for a potential Aserai force from the south. That also potentially means that there's going to be very small Aserai forces coming this direction, because I've mentioned that before. The attack force, the attack size is generally 3 to 5 times the size of the defense force. Well, if you have a castle with 100 troops, that means 3, 4, 500. So here, I'll just make a prediction. I like doing this because sometimes I look stupid and sometimes I look like a genius. Either way, it makes it more interesting. I will bet in the next day, by August 14th, August. It's also autumn, one of those words. We see an Aserai force between 400 and 600. And that's just how the system works, right? And I sometimes, I'm aware that I'm sort of revealing the pulling back the magic curtain and showing you guys too much about how the system works. I am aware, for some people that's a little bit magic killing. But for other people, they're really curious how to play the game. They want to have an advantage. And this is one of the ways to do it. I think we can do this. All right, sweet. We get these troops. They come with the quest. He just gives them to us, and he wants us to train them. Now, where did that happen? All right. This is why I'm saying I want to join up north. Right now, we're holding the southern edge. We've got this little tiny army down here. But in the north, they're having problems. I don't know exactly where it happened. Now, by the way, you can find out exactly where it happened, or at least very close. You just do this, Edwin or Munzer. Let's just look at Munzer. All you do is go into this little menu. This should never be the case, but since it is, right, you can take advantage of it. Atrion, right? And so this happened somewhere right in here. In fact, there's Atrion Village. You can almost pinpoint with like a satellite where that battle took place. Why is that important? Because sometimes it happens near you and it notifies you of troops that are nearby. Now look how amazing this is. What did I say, right? I mean, not bragging. Now what is this shit? These forest bandits. 40 forest bandits. Did they attack us or they just sat there? Okay, so I don't know. This seems like a bug. There's forest bandits just sitting here. They're not being very secretive, hiding in the forest. We'll just get them out of the way. You don't really want to have bandits about because they will attack your villagers and hurt your economy. But this is what I was just saying, right? Shibbolzumer is bait. In this case, of course, they're coming to siege Tamnu Castle. And this is another one of those situations where let's go ahead and experiment with something here. When we attack them here, I'm gonna send troops here. 555 Aserai. We would be able to completely smash this force in the open. But the previous episode, there was multiple battles with Tamnu Castle. We're going to use this as a benchmark. So 555 Aserai, sort of a middling army. I bet we lose like 140, 160 troops, something like that, to the auto result because the system is so inefficient. Right? 160 troops, 77 dead. Right? This is very painful. We've got all these troops that we just spent a bunch of legwork picking up, and we just lost a bunch of them in a very inefficient battle. That is almost certainly 2, maybe even 3 times worse than it would have been had we fought that battle. In other words, I think we could have fought that battle with 60, 70 casualties. Hopefully we get a battle similar to that in the next hour, and I'm able to illustrate that point. Now, I didn't buy any armor. I was very tempted to while we were at Hassan Folk to buy armor, and this is why, right? It's going to be routine that you get drops that far exceed or at least match virtually anything you can buy, right? So you really don't want to spend your money on armor unless you just are desperate or you're obviously rolling in money. I'm actually going to put a few troops here, not very many. Fodor is gaining levels. That's our guy, our brother. Right? We just added him, and because he has all those skill points towards steward, etc., this guy's learning, right? That's basically what EXP is. He's down there. He's like studying fucking maps and shit like that. He's got his scouting compass out or whatever that is. And whatever this is a bug. There's forest bandits in exactly numerals of 40 laying around the map, and they don't seem to be able to move. Now, we don't have any mods going. I should have mentioned that earlier. This guy is playing with all achievements activated and no mods. But for whatever reason, we have a little bit of a conflict or something here. What is this guy doing? It says traveling to Hassan Folk. Well, you're a little lost there, dude. You're going the wrong way. All right, I'd love to be able to do some quests here. I'm still checking for quests, and we have tools, I think. Let's see. This is why I pick up tools at cities, right? Because you just hit villages, and these guys want tools. You hand over a bunch of wrenches, and they give you a bunch of elite troops, right? We will take it. Those kind of quests. All you have to do is make sure you have 30, 40 tools on you at all times, and that's exactly what I try to do. I try to keep, right, we've got 18. I'll pick up some more at the next city I see. Now, this is kind of amazing. This guy's working astonishingly like bait for us, right? If there is a force of 500 Aserai, it's going to be a perfect opportunity for us just to sort of lurk over here on the edges of battle and let this guy just be the crash test dummy for us. Now, he's changing direction. Maybe he realized, maybe he just learned. Someone is like, Husson Folk is hundreds of miles north here, dude. You might want to turn around. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize we were heading south. It felt like the sun was getting warmer, so I thought maybe we were going north. And you got fucking dipshit in charge of that army. Pick up some goods here. And here is our army, but they're in a bad spot, right? I want to siege Razi, but before we siege Razi, we want to destroy all these forces that are lurking around it. The last thing we want is 600 Aserai forces to get inside the city right before we siege it. So we've got our little rocket here, right? This guy, I've been talking about him. He's got, what, 80%? Almost entirely cavalry, right? Here's where you use this guy, right? Attack dog. He's also outstanding bait. Now, even better bait would be somebody with a lot of high-end troops with tons of prisoners and no movement skill, where you can set them on the road and they like physically can't move, so they get attacked, and they'll try to move away like a looter and they actually can't because they're just so fat, basically. Okay, so this Northern Empire just broke up. The good thing about that is it's rodeo time, right? All these little tiny forces should be able to sort of close in and kill all of these Aserai forces. Look at our guy. There goes our heat-seeking missile. We're not even going to be able to help him because he's going to destroy and capture that lake rat force so fast. And that's precisely why you do that. Again, this is free. So some guys might consider this a gimmick. It doesn't cost you any influence, but we can literally just call that guy back and forth anytime we want. We can disband him. It's sort of tedious, and some people, maybe they consider this cheese. I don't know. But look, he's already in. He goes. And that Aserai force is fucked, right? Because he's fast. He's going to lose his disorganized status here very soon. We will try to cut him off here from the city. They're not going to be able to get in. And they're dead, right? 100% of the time, this Aserai force is dead. He just got the word. It's almost like you have ESP with these units too, and you're like, kill them. He goes in. They get smashed. And we live happily ever after. And of course, each time, thanks. I appreciate it, even though it's been our plan all along. I guess we should keep picking up cavalry, right? This guy wants a heavy horse army. Of course, we're going to get Valandian horses if you really want like a Rohirrim-style cavalry charge, but I digress, right? We're in the opposite side of the map of Valandian forces. You're going to have to be content, brother, I hope, with some Aserai horses here for your big charge. And look at our attack dog. He's just after everything now. He may even attack those looters. Oh shit, I didn't want to do that. Hostile action, give us recruits. Again, troops are so important for us at this stage. Every single one of these, I'm just going to say, give us your fucking troops. I like to role play afterwards. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll buy your goods. We'll pay you top dollar for your goods, but only after you've given us all your troops. Now, when he wanders off like that, just call him back to you, right? If you're a little attack dog. And of course, you can have more than one of these. You can have 3. It's amazing how quickly they will clear out bandits. Look at it. There he goes. Away he goes. Right? And this guy's fucked. Now, he will lose troops. Especially, you got to keep an eye on him if there's multiple armies because they'll gang up on him. Right? These other armies will attack. And he is losing troops, right? He's going to lose a couple, 4 cavalrymen, 6 cavalrymen. He's probably got some injured. But the net effect of that is your little brother here is getting EXP, he's getting medicine skills, he's getting all kinds of benefits, and we're getting rid of all these little Aserai forces. We couldn't catch him, but this guy can, right? He's going around just ransacking and tearing shit up. Now, before we siege here, we're going to look for one more army. You got to have almost like a clock in your head when you play Bannerlord and say, okay, it's been 4 or 5 days since we've seen Unquid, or whatever, a week or 2 since we've seen Unquid. It's been 4 or 5 days since we've seen a big army, whatever it is. You've got to sort of anticipate that happening because you don't want to siege this castle with almost on cue with another army coming right around the corner. Now, these are singular armies. We're not that worried about this, but you still want to round these guys up and kill them, right? There's no reason to let them form up. Now, I'm going to do this intentionally just to see how many forces are coming with them. They might go north of us, right? They might go head to Husson Folk or something like that, which would be fine, right? They can do that. Don't mind. But if there's a force of 800 coming, you want to know that. You don't want to start sieging with that force of 800 right on your tail, because you can be halfway through your siege process and get jammed. Here, it looks like a very small Aserai force, and here's the best part of this, right? We can actually watch this guy forming because of where he is, right? We've got good scouting skill thanks to his scout here, right? He does have a good scout, 200 and something, 20 skill. So we can literally watch the Aserai force forming up here while we siege. So if there's huge amounts of Aserai forces, we'll simply leave and then confront them. I wonder how much we should do here. I think we're going to go ahead and do our normal ensemble here. I'll try to do this quickly. What I do for a city like this, and look at this, his forces can't get here because they're afraid of our army. This is an army that's trying to get to him, and it's almost buggy. Oh, look, they're sort of bouncing around. Sometimes they won't get by, right? They'll basically struggle to get by him, and obviously that prevents him from forming his army. Now, our siege skill is not terrific here. It's taking forever just to build a single trebuchet. The other beautiful thing, when you have a good skill at tactics, this guy is now, that's his full army, 437. That guy can't attack us, no chance, right? If he had 1437, we might still win, right? We would just clobber him. But certainly 437, this guy, basically, he's reduced to watching us just take his city. There's nothing he can do. Now, if a force of 900 comes the other direction, right, we're going to get attacked, but I'd welcome that here. If you're not very good at tactics, though, you're disconcerted right now, right? These guys are lurking. The probability of more Aserai forces coming is high. Not certain, but it's very high. Now, I don't know if I've talked about this in this series, so we're going to talk about this now. The reason we're building these siege weapons and clicking that little move to reserve is rather elementary, right? If they're all firing at once, or 2 or 3 or 4 firing at once, they have a better chance of surviving. Now, they're taking a beating, and that's probably because this guy just doesn't have great siege skill. 15. His assisting player doesn't have good siege skill. You really want to destroy at least the fire catapult before you engage. There's usually at least one fire catapult. If you don't, you're going to take serious losses in a siege like this. We're gaining levels and shit. Now, we also want at least one ram, right? So we're going to speed this along here. Oh shit, don't think we built the ram. That helps. They are starting to pound one of the walls, but we're not concerned. And we're not going to try to blow a wall down. It'll just simply take too long. And they have, that fire catapult is being built. This ram is almost built. What you want is right now someone to get a lucky blow on that fire catapult. It'll just take one more shot here and we will launch with the rising of the sun. Come on, baby. Down it goes. We have a ram. You pause it right here. The reason you pause it right here is because any more movement is probably going to be negative. And what I mean by that is they're going to build a catapult or something like that. Now, this city should fall fast. I'm not going to get deep into the weeds of taking this city with every single captain perfectly configured. But those steps that we just did right there are tremendously helpful for what the siege that we're going to face here, right? We're going to reduce our casualties from maybe 300, right? If they had siege weapons and all the normal stuff. And now I think we can probably get in with like 100 casualties, right? It's going to be pretty low. They have no catapults, right? So the only thing they have is archers, and they honestly don't have very many of those either, right? And he's got some kind of wacky divisions here. What I mean by that is, at least to my eyes, they're wacky. Just putting archers in a gigantic glob there, and we're going to pull this 3rd division over here. We got our javelins. Come on, bitches. Ah, his first javelin throw. He drills a militia at full speed on his horse. The guy's like, ah! Probably going to get shot here. I'm trying to lead the men here. We're getting smoked. Yeah, all right. You only want to get smoked so often here. If you go down in a siege like this, and what I mean, of course, is if your character, your main guy, goes down, I don't have to tell you guys, it's going to be worse than you being up to command, right? Especially at least the way that we're going to show you how to command the siege. So far, relatively simple, right? We brought the archers up in a gigantic lob. You can even bring them right up to the wall, right? Almost the sooner the better. Now, we've got the infantry coming too, right? I told this 3rd division, get over here. As soon as they're here, we'll tell them to charge. Still getting a shot. Now, what the archers do is they give us complete wall superiority. There's so many archers just pounding everything in sight. The guys are trying to come up here and shoot before they can even get into position. They're getting shelled. Meanwhile, the guys put the ladders up. They'll start climbing. It's weird the ladders are way over there. Pick up that ladder, you dipshit. Sometimes your guys are disobedient. I like to hit a guy in the face with the javelin. To me, it seems appropriate, right? These motherfuckers don't want to do what they're supposed to. Sometimes you gotta do that though, right? You just gotta help that ladder up. Tail Worlds, if you're watching, fix that shit. Now they'll start using it, away they go. And I would just recommend you avoid going up there, right? Because if you get knocked unconscious in this instance, your side is just going to suffer so bad of losses. The net effect is going to be very devastating. Catapults are over there raining shit all over the place. The ram is coming, right? You do want to make a coordinated assault normally, but I think with our superiority in numbers here, it doesn't matter. If I had the RTS mod, I would definitely be speeding things along. What if I can pick up some javelins here? He's just tall enough. Give me that javelin. You can reach up and grab them off the walls. These little kind of things like this, Tail Worlds did a great job. They botched some things with this game, right? They're still working on it. That's why there's still updates coming. But man, there's a lot of cool little ideas, right? You can just pick up the javelins that are stuck to the wall. Your guy reaches up there to get them. All right, what else can we fill here as we're forced to walk a half a mile an hour up this ladder? When you're spoiled with the RTS system, this feels brutal. It feels so painfully slow. I feel like I'm wasting all your fellas' times, and yet for me to edit all this would take me like an hour, right? To try to, every single thing, try to squeeze out an extra 5 seconds here. Let's just get these archers moved up here a little bit. We can bore in here, and this siege very quickly is over. These would be the same steps we would take if there were 700 here, right? You would blitz one side, and hopefully we get a few battles like this as part of this campaign. It's been relatively easy so far, and that is one of the hazards of playing Bannerlord at a very high difficulty, right? When you play with all the mods we do, regular vanilla Bannerlord becomes amazingly easy. And of course, you hear about guys who play with RBM. They're like, I can't play with regular Bannerlord anymore, and I definitely get it. Time for our two-handed skill to go up here, right? Chop some militia down. There's no glory for the Aserai here as they're pounded into next week. All right. And 12 losses, right? 12. That is success. Just smashed everything in sight here. And I've mentioned it before. If you're doing a long campaign, and what I mean by that is a long, aggressive campaign where your troops were just boring in, and you were trying to make it to Hubyar or maybe even all the way to Sanala or something like that, this is the kind of siege assault you need. Ironically, you suffer bigger losses with the just leaving garrisons, right? Now, there's a couple critical points here. Earlier, I was talking about leaving lower-level troops on our companions, and maybe you noticed I kept most of our cons guards and stuff like that. That is because your companions will automatically put a bunch of troops in the garrison here, including troops that you probably don't want them to, right? There's no fix for that right now other than disbanding them right before you take the city. And you can't get them back unless you get voted for this city. In fact, here, I'll just show you. Not going to be able to until we get to this screen right here. There is 119 troops in the garrison, and for sure some of them came out of our units here. That these guys that I was having them just carry for us, that's not good, right? You lose those troops more than likely. There's a tiny chance we get voted for this city, but it's remote. All right, this Aserai force, I want to destroy this before we head north. I am thinking about heading north. There's kind of a lukewarm defense force here. If I wasn't so eager to show you combat to the north, I would probably stay down here for a while. Basically use this narrow pass. I don't think you can go through here. I think this pass here is the only way through for Aserai units. Maybe you can go all the way around. I don't think so. I think that pass is completely blocking it off, of which is, of course, an advantage for the Aserai normally, and a huge disadvantage like this if they're trying to get by you, right? This guy's a dead man. Why? Because he just ran right between Mr. Fodor and us, right? So we call Mr. Fodor to us. He can't escape. Fodor's like, yeah, baby, combat. And this Aserai force is trapped. Wouldn't be able to catch him otherwise. And I think we're going to fight this. We're outnumbered. We'll do this as quick as we can without the RTS mod. The earlier battle, we lost 160, where they had about the same number of troops. We had about 300 more troops than the defenders in that battle. And the auto-resolve, we had 160 losses, right? Let's try to far exceed that. And even better, right, they're taking a somewhat of a defensive stance here. That's just going to mean a complete pounding. Maybe we have 40 or 50 losses here. Is this necessary? Probably not. If you're playing the game on the hardest difficulty, I would say the necessity part of it is that it'll be harder and slower to do without this kind of success. You can still win Bannerlord, of course, just F1, F3. Plenty of guys on Reddit just F1, F3 the whole campaign, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But why play the game in such a non-cerebral way when the options are there for you to go out and dominate, right? And just kick ass. Why not just play to a high level? Yeah, maybe your answer is, I don't want it. That's a good answer, right? If that's your answer, have a blast. But if you're on Tactical Enlightenment, we're going to be trying to teach you what I would consider just a more enjoyable, a more satisfying way to play Bannerlord. I think satisfying, to get philosophical here very briefly, I think satisfaction is something that's very much missing from modern society. I remember reading articles about this with the invention, basically, of what's it called, the factory system, right? When Ford came along, you get advantages from it. What you get, of course, is they make cars very cheap, right? They make a Model T. They were making them every 27 minutes or something like that. And there is some benefit to society, right? Because suddenly people who could never afford a Model T before, now they can, right? There are some advantages. However, social scientists have now learned, years later on, that there's net negatives to that, right? And the net negative effect to that for society is that we as a whole are less happy. Well, what do people do when they're not very happy? They resort to drug use, they resort to alcoholism, they resort to porn or whatever the fuck it is, right? Basically, we look for ways to fill that happiness void, right? Human beings seek happiness naturally, just the same way an otter or a river, or what are they called? An otter and stuff like that, they will swim in the ocean, right? Animals inherently seek pleasure. And since we don't get a lot of pleasure from work, we don't get a lot of satisfaction, the net negative result for all of that is that people get into all kinds of very, very bad habits, right? Habits that are damaging for their lives. So don't damage your life. Play Bannerlord in a way that gives you happiness. That's the net effect of that little philosophical point there. So we're closing the net here on the Aserai, right? We're doing so systematically. We have shield walls in front of our units. The archers are moving up systematically. We're starting to pound them at range. These guys are going to charge, right? We can anticipate that. We have two different infantry divisions. There's a cavalry division right here and an infantry division right behind them. You do that to protect those shock troops. I think we talked about that before. The enemy's going to charge. In fact, they just started to. Their sort of pathetic cavalry is charging, right? And they really don't amount to shit. Our archers are just shredding everything. Their poor little militia just turned, in fact, to face the bigger threat, which is that infantry and cavalry. They're oh shit. Well, of course, now the dipshit AI takes over. The good news, though, is that we had basically enacted the majority of the strategies necessary for this battle. Of course, look at this. Look at how bad this is. The archers, instead of shooting, for some reason, they charged right into the valley. What are you doing? You just want to like slap the AI across the face sometimes. But we had done enough tactically there that we're still going to suffer very low casualties in this battle, again, compared to auto-resolve, right? It's 27, it's going to be like 40, even though the AI butchered that after we took over. This is why, of course, a lot of people refuse to play without the RTS mod. All right, a smashing victory here. So the comparison, again, we had about 160 losses in a battle very similar to this earlier, using the auto-resolve. Here we have 40. The difference is startling. I know some guys get sick of me ranting about it. It's not necessarily that I'm trying to convince the same people over and over again. I'm trying to convince new people to start using tactics in Bannerlord. What are the reasons, right? I'll be a salesman for 30 seconds. The first reason is fun. It's a puzzle, right? Guys go and pay to do things like Sudoku or Wordle, or they buy a board game at the store and they have game night with their friends and they go play puzzles. Why let the AI fight out a battle that is potentially fun for you, right? You might as well enjoy one of the best parts of Bannerlord, and that is the combat system, right? That's point number one. Number two, satisfaction, right? Don't drink yourself to death and smoke marijuana the rest of your life. Have some satisfaction in more areas of your life. Find a job, even in our absolute hellish mires of different jobs. I will admit, as a firefighter, I understand. Some guys hear me and they're like, shut the fuck up. You're so lucky to have that job. My job sucks. I know this, fellas, right? I mean, we can't all be athletes, professional athletes, porn stars, and firefighters, but try to find a job that makes you somewhat happy, somehow, some way, right? Find something that you're good at that you can enjoy. That's my little old man rant to you young guys. And of course, when you have the opportunity for satisfaction like this, use tactics, right? This all goes hand in hand, this little rant here. Anytime that you have the chance to engage in something that's going to give you a sense of satisfaction. That's why people climb mountains for no reason, right? They don't do it because they thought there was gold at the top of a mountain. It seems strange. Every year, hundreds of people climb way up to the top of Mount Everest and risk death, but they do so for that ultimate thrill of satisfaction, right? The high of success. And if you're auto-resolving, you never get that, right? You never ever feel this intense satisfaction because you didn't do it, right? The AI did. Now this is starting to get pitiful. They keep sending these little tiny pitiful armies at us. I think we're just going to go straight for the jugular here. We haven't had a completely gnarly siege yet for this series. What I mean by that is like, a siege where it should be theoretically really difficult. Let's do one here. I'm going to call a little bit of backup. No, I'm not. Nobody's anywhere near us. We are very wholly alone here. And there's 600 defenders, right? This is graduating, right? If the rest of that stuff was sort of the minor leagues, this is very much, oh shit, look at this. The Southern Empire is no more there, but shit's happening and I'm over here talking philosophy. Penton is taking keeps. I don't know what kind of a relation you have with that guy, but he's doing his thing. But this is a whole new animal, right? Sieging a city that has 600 defenders, this is not going to be easy. They're going to be building siege weapons vigorously to try to counter us. The odds of us being attacked outside this city are significant, right? We already saw an army forming. There's very likely going to be another army. I wonder if Unquid is still prisoner. Didn't we take... where is this guy here? Oh, never seen before. He was executed. Oh, shit. You know what? I'm getting our campaigns mixed up. There was a campaign where we took Unquid capture. What happened here, Unquid? I can't help but wonder. We got a lot of executors that write in on the channel, right? A whole bunch of mass murderers write in with their game. Maybe that's why this guy didn't want to give me his name. Hey, Wolven, are you wanted, dead or alive, dude? Is the Sultan and his entourage, are they sworn enemies of you because in whatever year that was, you executed the Sultan? How long ago was that shit? That was recent. The blood is still fucking on your shirt and shit, dude. Hot red shirt. I digress. We love it, right? We're not going to make fun of these guys other than it's just kind of funny, right? Guys are out there killing and you can do your detective work here and say, I wonder what happened here, right? It looks like, and he also wrote in his email, right? I've killed a bunch of nobles and these bitches keep coming. Then of course there's this other component, minus 100. The family tends to hate you after you cut their dude's head off. All right. Won't make fun of this guy too much. It's a little bit funny though. It's kind of sad, right? Maybe it's because he did kill the Sultan. The Aserai just sort of seemed defeated. There's no armies here trying to save Hubyar. We're basically just invading Aserai territory with very little resistance. We're going to be able to blast through their siege. We may not even lose any catapults here. And again, this goes back to emphasize why you want to build those siege weapons and do this previous setup here, right? By the time that ram is built, I think we'll launch it. If there's no catapults, we're going to launch this siege. I got to destroy that one. Now we're in a race here, and I think we're winning. Before they can build that catapult, we're going to have this ram up. We're again going to be launching this assault at dawn. Oh, it's going to be close. Fuckers. All right, we are going to take the time here to destroy that catapult. How important is it? Probably not that much, but a catapult blow, especially if the catapult happens to be in a deadly location, can kill 100 of your troops, right? It all depends on exactly where it is, the circumstances. Sometimes they're in the absolute perfect spot where it just smokes your units en masse, right? I've definitely had sieges, even as an experienced player, where I took those catapults for granted and we got melted by their fucking catapults, right? They just completely shredded us. So it is important, and they have almost as many defenders as we have attackers, right? This is a siege that, for sure, a lot of players lose. We can lose this siege here, even though, of course, with my experience, it's pretty unlikely. The nice thing, too, is we're going to be able to add this little element in here. This is still very much misunderstood, and that's using fire catapults in siege. I think we have a fire catapult, or maybe it's a regular catapult. It is a regular catapult. That's okay. We'll still be able to use this, and what I'm going to do is basically try to explain the best way to use these catapults. I wonder if I should be over here with it. Maybe. Let's put it right there. Then I think we can hit multiple locations. Right now I'm deciding what is the best location for this catapult, right? Where can I hit the most amount of enemy troops? We're going to actually use this catapult in this battle. We're not going to use it for a long time, but we're going to use this as our troops set up, as they go up there and start climbing the walls. Maybe we'll help them set up one of those. We're then going to run back and activate, or more accurately, take over one of those catapults. So the divisions are all wonky here. I might be, stubbing a toe here by being a little bit carefree with unit assignment and stuff like that, because I'm basically playing with units that are very, very unfamiliar to me, right? The 4th Division is infantry, the 5th Division is archers. A lot of these are not normal. Now, what division is this? This is... That's the 4th. Right, we want these guys getting up here, climb these fucking ladders. Now, the reason you want your troops climbing these ladders is that is what triggers the enemy to defend the walls, right? The enemy is now going to start rushing a whole bunch of troops up to these ladders, and that's critical for us, right? To use that catapult to good effect, you want the enemy piled up on these walls. Now, you want archers here. These guys I called over, the same reason we did before, right? That way the enemy has we have sort of this suppressing fire as our units climb the ladders. All kinds of units are attacking them. That's 65 right there. Let's bring this 6th Division over here too. We'll have huge range superiority on that side. I think I saw the ladders just go up. Okay, so the ladders are up over there. The ram is coming, and now we get to do our catapult work. The nice thing here is this is relatively safe. And what I mean by that is you can get hit with, with an arrow shot right between the eyes. But for the most part, this is safe. And this for sure is like a sales pitch for a high definition monitor, right? I can see right where my spear is, or actually I guess it's right where the arrow is sticking out of my back. I can see a bunch of troops there at the top of the walls. If you're playing on like a low resolution screen or something like that, you can't see those guys. Now, the other thing that's kind of difficult here, if you don't have a fire catapult, these catapults are hugely inaccurate. They just kind of spew all over the place. It's like you've been drinking all night and then try to pee at a urinal on a ship that's swaying all over the place, right? You're likely to have a lot of your shots not really go where you want them to. They're already not super accurate. What I mean by that is catapults tend to, like, each shot tends to be a little bit different than the previous shot. There's kind of a random element to it. So we're taking a risk here that we just pile up our own corpses as well, right? In fact, this guy looking at me, he's like, what the fuck was that, man? You hit our own troops. It's like, trust me, dude, we're doing the best we can here under the circumstances. And it might be a waste of time to do this with these catapults, right? We don't really have a good target over there. Let's try over here. At least these guys are a little closer. But there's not a huge amount of enemy troops on the walls. A lot of times the walls are packed with hundreds of enemy troops. In this instance, I'm looking, and there's like 30 or 40. Maybe 20. There's hardly any up there. Now, at least we got off one good shot. And a general rule of thumb, like once you get a hit like that, you literally just keep doing it over and over again, right? The enemy tends to congregate in the same area, and so just keep on firing. You get a bad result, move it. It's not too much rocket scientist. Love to get one or two more hits here. Now, in a way, I think part of what's happening here, part of the reason we're just smashing through this campaign here is our experience, but also I'm used to playing with a very high level of difficulty. And guys are like, well, you're on the hardest difficulty. No, with the Strength and AI mod. The guys that frequent the channel on a regular basis, they know, they have seen, and many of them play with it. When you play the game on vanilla and then you load up the Strength and AI mod, especially if you're using settings that are anything close to ours, the game is unbelievably hard compared to vanilla, right? The enemy lords are just beasts. They have huge armies. They have elite siege skills. Their companion perks are off the charts. When you meet them in combat, they're fucking you up. The whole game is different when you have a mod like the Strength and AI mod. Now, of course, a lot of guys either can't use mods or they're not ready for it, right? The average player is not ready for Strength and AI, right? And of course, the settings are adjustable, so that statement is a little bit incorrect, right? The bottom line is that there's sort of a Strength and AI mod for everybody. There are all kinds of different variable levels of Strength and AI. Right? It can be brutal, or it can be relatively easy. Right? Relative, at least, to that brutal that I was just describing. Now, this city is just a steamroller. Our infantry is just rampaging, yelling the whole way as we smash our way through the city. There's just hapless Aserai forces down there waiting to be killed. They are rallying some troops here, right? So we are going to have some combat. Oh, you fucker, he ducked right as I swung my axe. Of course, you got a little fucker throwing rocks. Well, we can return the favor here, right? And throw this on the defenders. Get off my troops. Smash our way through them. And now I positioned archers and infantry nearby here, right? So we should have some help pretty soon here. And of course, in the walls here, that's why you have your one-handed weapon. It's a perfect example of a time you want that one-handed weapon. You can't really... Look at this guy, he's up there on his wall. You don't see that very often. You got your huge weapon inside a city like this and you got problems. Let's hit some guys in the back here. Ah! And of course his throwing skills are so weak I can't even hit these guys. But it's going to get better, right? Everything's getting better. Including skill level, right? The guys who are still struggling with Bannerlord, I promise you, if you come by our channel on a regular basis, hit Strat Gaming Guide and learn some of the meta stuff about the game, you will be piling up the bodies in no time. Bannerlord is a difficult game, but once you start to get the general concepts down, the game just enters a whole new level of enjoyment, satisfaction, right? We mentioned that before. And you're off to the races when it comes to fun. Look at this fucker throwing javelins at me. You fucking lake rat wrecker. In fact, give me your javelins, you fucker. Now we got archers over here to assist us, I think. Hurry up, boys. Our own siege weapon almost killed us here. See if we can't hit one of these guys right between the eyes. Just laid that guy on his back. We can't stop them. Now, I can't fast forward this, so we might as well get our axe swinging on. We can't stop them. All the different sounds of guys getting mauled. And a thorough whipping here as we just smash our way right through the Aserai. Now, this is what this fella asked for, right? Wolfen was eager that we smash the asteroid here, and I think we're going to have one more episode here. This is one of, I think this is one of our companions, right? Something like that. We'll get a little practice. Look at his face. I don't know if you saw it. His eyes got all big, like, what was that? Oh shit, I got hit in the chest with a javelin. The units in Bannerlord are great. Like all the little tiny, there's all kinds of little things in the game that they could fix, right? Everybody, we're all aware of that shit, but there's an awful lot of parts of Bannerlord that are just amazing, hilariously funny, or just incredibly dynamic. I mean, look at this incredible city with just cracks all over the walls, and there's blood splattered all over everywhere. It's terrific. We're going to auto-resolve that part, and I think we'll wrap this episode up. I don't actually have my little phone out to see how long we've been playing, but it seems like quite a while. God, every once in a while I hear of guys losing these. I'm not about to lose this shit. All right, we good.
I give up.
Come with us, lake rats. Hopefully you got some nice lake rat wreckers for us to add to the army here. That's right, we're trying to pick up cavalry here. And hopefully this episode is useful for you fellas, right? Bannerlord is a complicated game. I know sometimes we make it look very easy on the channel. Lots and lots of experience. I'd like to remind everybody who watches on a regular basis that there was definitely a time where I ran around and on a horse with, 12 riding skill and got mangled by looters, right? This game has a steep learning curve. But once you start to figure things out, like it's not only a lot of fun, but the sky's the limit, right? There's an advanced possibility for tactics, for improvement, even to this day, right? I still learn tips from players, and hopefully I can continue to transmute those to you guys. So I'm going to skip this part for you guys. In fact, I'm going to say my spiel here while we sell some shit at this city. There may be a third episode. I haven't kind of decided yet. I'm sort of thinking in my head whether or not it's worth it. I do want to help this guy out still, make sure that he's off to the races with his campaign. But at the same time, we're trying to provide content that's not redundant here. Just smashing our way easily through cities is not very valuable to you guys. And again, maybe we'll edit some components of that out. So with all that said, of course, if you have difficult situations you want me to try and solve, all you got to do, send your email, right? Send your game save, to the email that's in the video description. I'll take a look at it. If it's relatively unique, if it's difficult, if it's possible, right? Sometimes guys have sent me impossible situations. We will take a look at it, and hopefully we can solve it and then put it up on the channel here for you to enjoy and for other people to benefit from. That said, of course, please hit that like button on the way out, right? Unless you didn't like it. And as I often say, I have no idea then how you watched an hour and you don't like it, right? Please hit that like button. Subscribe, of course, if you want to see more. And with all that said, friends, I will see you and Mr. Wolfen next time.